Today I'm going to be talking about how to make a Neapolitan style pizza in your home. So first of all, you need 360 grams of 00 strong flour. 00 means the amount of times that it's been milled, so it's been milled quite a lot if it's 00, and strong flour means that it's got a high protein and gluten content, which is perfect for pizza making. If you can't find that flour, then use bread flour, that'd be okay. And if you can't find either of those and you don't really want to make your own pizza dough, then Delavita, a local company in Huddersfield, do sell frozen dough balls. They're called Dough to Go and they're organic and vegan. I'll put the link at the bottom if you want to order any dough balls. They're really good quality. So we've got 200 millilitres of water straight from the tap. Some recipes tell you to use mild tepid water or room temperature water. That's to help the yeast activate quicker, but actually we're going to do a slow method of yeast proving. 10 grams of salt, 2 grams of olive oil and 2 grams of fresh yeast. This is the fresh yeast. There we go. But you could also use dried yeast, which half the quantity of the dried yeast that you use because it's twice as potent as the fresh yeast. You can get the dried yeast in the supermarkets. For quantities, you might be cooking for 2 people, 4 or 10, but a general rule of thumb is to use these percentages. So if you're looking at 100% 00 flour or strong flour, you'll need 65% water to that. If you're using just a bread flour, then you'll need less water, go 55 to 60% of water, 3% of salt and 0.2% yeast. Okay, so first of all, to make your dough, you've got your flour, you've got your yeast and your water. So first of all, I'm going to add the yeast to the water. And as soon as you do that, that yeast starts coming alive and becomes activated. I'm using the dried yeast for this demonstration because I think most of you will be able to get dried yeast in the supermarkets. The fresh yeast you usually find in specialist shops and it comes in large kilogram quantities, which is far too much for what you need. And then to my flour, I'm going to add the salt. Just mix that in. And then the olive oil. I'll be adding the water and yeast to the flour just gradually and mixing it with the back of a spoon, not my fingers, because it's a really messy job this, and your fingers get really full of sticky flour and it's not necessary. Just use the back of a spoon to bring it together at this stage. It's quite floury at the moment, but don't worry about that. As you add in the water, that will come together. If it's a little bit dry, just add a tiny bit more water until you get a consistency where all the flour has been brought into the mixture. So I'm just going to add just a touch more water. There was a little bit of yeast on the side of the jug, so I've just brought that in as well. We want to use all of that yeast. Common mistake is not to knead the dough for long enough. So the kneading process already starts in the bowl, pushing it away and pulling it back on itself. There we go. And if that's a little bit sticky, just add a touch of flour. When you're happy that it's not too wet and messy, you can bring it onto your work surface, a nice clean work surface, and start kneading. Now, this is quite hard work. And you need to do this for about 10 minutes, minimum 10 minutes, I'm told. I've taken quite a lot of advice when it comes to this pizza recipe. I've spoken to the chef from D'Sandro's. He's given me the measurements. I've also spoken to my nephews, who are both professional pizza chefs, and they've given me advice as well. And I've also spoken to my cousin Joe, who is the proprietor of Delavita. So I've been working this dough for a good 10 minutes, pulling it and then pulling it back on itself. And then you can tell that the dough's ready. So when you prod it, it bounces back. Look at that, I just love that. So what you do then is you kind of turn it over on itself And you want to make a nice ball. A little drizzle of olive oil in it. And just more or less coat the bowl with the olive oil. Also almost just wiping it off, so it's a very fine layer. And then you sit the ball into the bowl. In fact, I'll put the olive oil on my hands, cut my hands, and then I want to put a little bit of olive oil all over the bowl. And that's going to sit in there, and it's going to grow in size. The yeast is going to do its job, and it's going to prove. And we just seal the bowl like that. Okay. I'm going to leave that at room temperature for 4 hours, and that will grow in size. And then what I'm going to do is put it in the fridge and going to leave it overnight. So it's going to rest for 24 hours. So when I spoke to the chef at D'Sandro's, he said that you can leave your dough to prove for about 6 hours and make your pizza after that time. But like at D'Sandro's, I'm going to leave this overnight and let it really grow in size and let lots of air develop into that dough. So my dough has been rising overnight in the fridge. So first of all, put some olive oil on your hands, and that will allow you to take the dough out without it sticking to your fingers. Then what I'll do is I'll cut the dough ball in half, because I prepared this for 2 people. And then I need to shape the dough into a dough ball. So turn it over, fold, 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 fold. So you can see all those bubbles in there. And pinch it. There you go, so I've made a dough ball on a slightly oiled tray. And I will leave that to rest for another 2 hours at room temperature, and then it'll be good to make the pizza. So that will be 24 hours since I first made the dough. When I made the dough, I let it rise at room temperature for 4 hours, and then I put it in the fridge overnight. I've taken it out, shaping the dough balls, and I'm leaving it at room temperature for a further 2 hours. Spray a touch of olive oil again on the dough, because I don't want the cling film to stick to it. And then put cling film on and allow it to come to room temperature. Okay, so here you can see the 2 dough balls. You can see there's little pockets of air in there. It's just what we want to see. So before I start working those, I want to make sure I've got all my ingredients to hand and out of the packaging. These are the Mutti San Marzano type of tomato from Italy, which is the best tomato and what we use in the restaurants. You might not be able to get that particular brand, but if you get any plum tomatoes from the supermarket, that would be fine. And then basically I've just put them in a bowl and I've squished them with my hands and added some olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper. So for the margherita, you've got the tomato base, the mozzarella, some basil leaves, some grating of Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano, and olive oil. That's Gabby's favourite pizza. John's not a pizza lover. Grace would like something like chicken in a barbecue sauce, something like that. But my favourite pizza would be the pizza base, mozzarella, and some lovely Parma ham or cured meats, some shavings of Parmesan cheese, some fresh tomatoes, and then when it comes out of the oven, put lots of lovely fresh rocket all over the top. And that's actually called a pizza Lydia, named it after myself in at Prego's, as you do. So I will get on with making the pizza. So I'm going to flour my surface, just a touch of olive oil on my hands so that the dough doesn't stick to my hands. And see my dough ball here? See all the lovely air pockets in there? Perfect. So I've got floured surface and a little bit more flour on the top, like that. And then what you're going to do is basically you're going to press using your fingers all around the edge of the ball, but leaving a rim. So we're not actually at the moment going to be stretching the dough. We're just using our fingers to prod. We'll be squeezing that air towards the edge of the ring, leaving a bit of an edge. Turn it over, do the same. Prodding, just leaving an edge. You can see a pocket of air there. I'm just going to pinch that, let that air out, because otherwise that would burn. I've got the oven on as high as it will go. Domestic oven usually goes to about 220. Bearing in mind the pizza ovens in the restaurants get up to in excess of 400 degrees. I'm having to bend over here. So turning that over. What we want to be doing is starting to stretch the pizza and make the shape of the pizza. So what we do is we do the steering wheel method. Again, be careful to protect that rim, but you're gently just taking it from one hand to the next and allowing gravity to stretch it down. Another way is to flop it from one hand to the other, rotating it as we go. Stretching it. You see the pizza chefs flying it in the air. They use their knuckles and then rotate it and throw it, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm pulling it and rotating it. Pull, rotate. Got quite a lot of elasticity in this because of the flour, which has got high gluten content, and also because of the yeast.
I like your chef's cardi.
Thank you.
Don't forget to put a cardigan on before you go chefing.
Well, I always wear a cardi so my arms shake when I'm working. So I don't want that to be on video. Right, there we go. That's a good enough circle, in my opinion. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you how to make a pizza Lydia, which is what we sell at Prego. We've got the Samarzano tomatoes with the olive oil. In fact, I just put a little bit more olive oil. You know how I love my olive oil. Some salt, some pepper. I put a little bit of basil in there because I like the basil. And with the flat end of the spoon, you just turn it from the middle. So some mozzarella on there. I'm going to put some fresh tomatoes as well. This is my peel, this wooden block, so I'm going to use this wooden block to shake the pizza into the oven. And I need to be working quite quickly, but I needed to put something underneath, and I'm going to put some breadcrumbs just to help me shake the pizza off. This would have been easy if I'd done it before, but oh look, it can shake beautifully, that's fine.
Breadcrumbs work well.
Breadcrumbs work well, but you can also use semolina. Flour, yes, you can keep it to flour, but you might have some difficulty shaking the pizza off if it's just flour, because it could stick through the flour. So you need something that's a little bit more granulated. So now I'm adding the Parma ham. And again, this is the pizza Lydia. I might just crumble this Parmesan, it's very crumbly. There we go. So I'm going to pop that in the oven. You're taking my pizza Lydia, and I'll be transferring this into the oven. So do you want to come with me? Okay, so I'm going to do a cha-cha-cha method, which is cha-cha-cha. So you take the peel into the oven and you go cha-cha-cha, and then pull away. And that's transferred into the oven, and that's going to cook. It'll only take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. It's kind of a balance between getting the mozzarella so it's nice brown and golden, and also getting the crust so it's nice and golden. I think that looks fab. It's not perfectly shapen, but who is? So here we are, the pizza Lydia, fresh out of the oven. Nice crispy base, piping hot, melted mozzarella, and then topped with lovely fresh rocket.